Kura Tawhiti, it's Ekant here from EkantTakePhotos.com, and we're doing another night shoot tonight, but a slightly different night shoot. Usually you want to go out on a nice clear night when there's very little light pollution and try and minimize all the lights that might be affecting your shot. And we can't do that tonight because even though we're in a very non-light polluted area, we're nowhere near any civilization, we do have something very bright, and that is the full moon is high in the sky. Now, a lot of astrophotographers will say there's no point going out with a full moon, you know, any sort of star shots you get are going to be washed out. You're not going to get any of that sort of interesting galaxy action that you might want. I agree, you're not going to get the same sort of star action that you want, but there is plenty of other things you can do, and that's why I've come out to this place called Kura Tawhiti, Castle Hill. This is a place where we're full of these huge limestone tors just sticking out of the ground all around us, which gives us plenty of interesting sort of views of what we can take in the foreground. When you do have a lot of light pollution like you do have tonight, then don't throw away the opportunity. You might want to use it to your advantage, but come out to a place with some interesting foreground. The problem is when you do take a shot, you're going to make it look more like it's daytime when you take a standard long exposure. So you're going to have to think about your exposure settings and things like that. So I'm underexposing it a little bit because otherwise it's just going to look like daytime. I still want a few stars in the sky, but not completely blow it out. So I'm here with a few other people as well who are learning astrophotography, giving them a look at what we do out here in the sort of area, trying to keep my eye on the ground so I don't fall down a crevasse or anything like that. But we'll see if I can set up. I actually want to do a nice time lapse, especially with the moon in the sky. It'd be quite cool to see the shadows change as the moon makes its way across the sky. So I want to find a nice high vantage point, try and take advantage of those limestone tors and incorporate that into the shot. But it means a little bit of clambering around and exploring and hopefully not getting lost. So let's see how we go. So it's a little difficult to get a sense of the scale of some of these limestone tors when you're not actually here. But to give you an idea, some of these ones just in front of me jut out for a couple of 100 feet in the air, and it's just a straight drop down to the ground from there. So I've just set up here where there's a little bit of a walkway that goes down to the ground level, and I'm going to take a picture of the valley just with these two big tors in between me and some mountains in the distance. It looks like the Milky Way is rising there. We're not going to get much out of the Milky Way, like I said, with the moon there. But it should be still a sweet shot, just to try and give you the scale. I'm going to go with portrait format as well. Like I said, not as long an exposure as I normally do with Astro as well. Maybe about 10 to 12 seconds. I'm using my 14mm lens and maybe ISO 800. So I took that shot at 10 seconds, f2.8, ISO 800, and you can see there's that aggressive lens flare coming off the moon just to the left, but it's quite cool looking down the middle of this valley here. Might have to find some other way of trying to get the scale, but I might get a little higher up to my right and climb up a little bit higher on these tors and see if there's anything I can spot from there. So I've come a little higher up and a little bit more open air up here. I can see Spittle Hill just on my left. I've got some nice snow-capped mountains just to my right. Got a few more of the limestone tors right in front of me. I'm going to see if I can use that sort of framing for the time lapse. The moon is right behind me, so I can avoid any of that lens flare or anything that was coming off there with that brightness of that moon. So we'll see if we can set up a few test shots, make sure that everything is set up nicely, and then I might sit down and just enjoy the stars. Even on a pretty moonlit night like tonight, it's still pretty cool to be out. You can see the Milky Way quite easily. Still plenty of structure out there. So lie back and enjoy myself, maybe see how the others are doing with their shots. Alright. How about yourself? How you doing? Are you using a clicker? Good.
Yeah.
When you got the shutter released, you just avoid a little bit more of it. Nice. I really like the perspective with this down here. What lens is that? Is that your 14mm?
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
It's such a cool lens.
Such a nice one. And that's at 2.8?
Yeah, 2.8.
Yeah, just past infinity there.
So,
That's, keep it there.
Yep.
Sweet. Alright, so I've come down a little further, and what I found is a little bit of a pool of water. I didn't think there would be any water up here. At this time of year, it usually takes a little bit more time for the water to collect, but there's enough here, lovely and still. And you know what happens when you've got astro and water? You've got reflection shots. So let's see if I can get some of that foreground with the reflection, some of the tors in the background, and maybe a little bit of stars. It's still pretty bright, but even with the with those tors there in the background, and that's reflecting quite nicely just with the naked eye. So we'll see how we go with this. When it comes to reflections, what you want to do is try and keep the angle of reflection from you and the pool as steep as possible. So I've come back a little bit. Let's see how that went. A little bit higher ground to see if I can pick up a little bit more reflection from that pool. Now I don't want to get too far back, because if I get too far back then I'm actually losing a lot of detail. So I need to find that happy middle ground between the reflection and making sure I'm getting the detail of the stuff that I want to actually capture in my shot. So I might get a little bit closer and then take that shot again. Maybe even do a panorama, because I can just see the Milky Way rising a little bit to the left there, see a couple of the galaxies there. So even on a really bright night like tonight, we can still see plenty of detail in the astro.